Jen, whenever
I'm ready.
you're ready.
Yep.
What if I'm not? Okay, very good. We will call to order this Thursday, March 3rd, 2022 regular meeting of the College Township Council to order. If you would, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would like to advise that council met in executive session just prior to this meeting for a couple personnel matters. At this point, we will open the floor for public open discussion of anyone wishing to discuss anything with council that is not on this evening's agenda. Jen confirming we didn't receive anything prior that isn't already in?
No, I'm gonna move this little hand down so that
Okay.
you don't think somebody's crazy there. Oh, yeah, so that's not me. There, nope. That's
Okay,
it.
very good. Okay, does anyone on council have any new items to add to this evening's agenda? Seeing or hearing none, we'll continue on. I would like to share that on the good news front, Center County dropped below 100 positive cases per 100,000 yesterday. That's the first time since August 25th. There's rumor on the street that Center County may have actually dropped down into the moderate under the new CDC guidelines. So again, moving in the right direction. For those that didn't see, our brand new Aldi's is scheduled to open March 24th. That's a wonderful new addition on that end of town. And similarly, we've seen the work for Urban Flavor House, which will be going into Luna 2. So that'll add dining options to that side of town as well. At this point, we have a special presentation, a Planning Commission update. Mr. Dara.
This is the annual report for 2021 from the Planning Commission. It's dated February 15th. I believe you have that in your packets. Bob Hoffman was our chair last year. He had a note to council that he wanted to thank everybody for their cooperation. One of the things that stood out for Bob during the year was the model that we used for the Aspen Heights approval. The Planning Commission had 3 open discussions on that before we took action that had quite a bit of residential or residents interacting with us. I know when it came to council, council had probably about 3 to 4 meetings on that also. And then we finally approved it, and that's now under construction, which will increase student and some affordable units to the township up on the hill here where Hillside was. So he just wanted to thank everybody for the cooperation of that. Some of the highlights that we did in January, we looked at Royal King. We approved that. That is now open. We looked at Aldi's, and we just found out that that will open here at the end of March. Then we also, in January, looked at the Aspen Heights. And that basically went from January 19th through February 16th. So we did spend a lot of time on Aspen. We then looked at a Geisinger plan, which will be out in Scenery Park. That plan was approved. It hasn't moved yet. They still haven't recorded the plan. They've asked for time, but that will be a new medical clinic on the opposite side of Scenery Park Drive. We then looked at the old CDT building, Stuckey's will be going in there. We had to do, we looked at the plan, we did, since that is industrial, that had to be incorporated into an IRD that's part of the old Corning plant, so they can do some retail. So that was a two-prong approach to do that approval. In June, we looked at the Palmer Museum for Penn State. That's both in College Township and the borough. That was approved. Stuckey's finally got approved in July. They're probably looking at doing some things in the interior of that building. The casino plan came in to us in August. We did approve that. That hasn't started because the final approval from the state has not been received yet. We looked at, in September, the Stalker Body Shop, plus the Stalker land development. That finally came into us in January, was approved, and I think it was already done by council approval on that plan, or it's coming in. We then had the Dale Summit area plan. We spent a lot of time looking at that, what we can do with Dale Summit, and some of the things the township and the planning commission is looking at. That's still under review. We spent a lot of time on the Lamont Housing District and Village Historical District. That has finally, after 3 or 4 discussions in the planning commission, come to the council. That will be coming in for a public hearing, I think, on 3/17. Let's see. We then started looking at form-based code planning. It's totally different than the existing ordinances we have on the books. We spent a number of work sessions on that. We will have a joint meeting the end of March here with council to go over that. If we adopt doing that, we will need to do some things in the interim with our existing ordinances, more like uses, some other things, to get the Dale Summit area to get revitalized. We did look at the Millbrook Marsh, the new educational building, some of their sidewalk concerns. That was approved, I think, here in January, and we approved it in November. It was then approved by council in January. And that's about it. So we were pretty busy last year. I don't think this year will be any slower. We started to look at the pedestrian sidewalk study that has been done. We spent some time on that just this past meeting. We also heard a presentation this past meeting on a new ordinance that Penndot Township's looking at concerning bicycle parking. And that was presented to us by Center Planning Commission. So we don't know. After we look at it, see some more information, we'll bring that to council and to staff to see where you guys want to go with that. Is there any questions?
Great. Questions for Ed and the Planning Commission? Carla?
No, just a huge thank you to you and the Planning Commission for all the time and work that you've been putting into this. I think we've had a pretty good working relationship in the last year, so it's a good thing. Thanks.
Dustin?
Just want to make a comment, in reviewing everything you did and accomplishments, well done.
Thank you.
Eric?
Me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, hey, what Carla and Dustin said, I couldn't have said it better, so I won't.
Very good. Paul?
No, I mean, a lot got done,
Yeah.
right? I mean, and what I really liked was that the planning commission did some of the heavy lifting on certain of the projects. Council tried to do some heavy lifting on the other one. it seems to me that this past year, the communication was really good. And, you know, one of the things that I really liked this year was the inclusion of like the sketch plans and those kind of things ahead of time. I think it headed off a lot of the things that just made things more, things went more smoothly because of that. And I think moving into this, you know, exciting new realm of possibly form-based code and all those kind of things is gonna require some creativity and a lot of open communication between council and planning commission. So I really feel pretty confident that we're getting there. So thank you, please, you know, on behalf of, well, I'm sure I speak on behalf of all of us, thank you for all the work that you all do. It's a difficult job and you all do it well.
And I'll be honest with you, being a relatively new person to the planning commission, only 2.5 years now, it is a big learning curve. You do have to go out and do homework, you have to do site visits, you have to know what the community wants, you have to listen to other people, not just your own opinions. And the communication thing, I think, between the planning commission and the commissioners has to be totally open.
Well, speaking, you know, I think keeping that line of communication is really open and you as liaison is you know, play a critical role there. So thank you for that.
Thanks, Paul. Carla missed you the first time. She got something else for you? Did you have something else for him? Or not?
No, I was,
Okay,
I
cool.
got it.
No, I thought you had another question.
Oh, no.
Very good. Ed, we don't like you guys being bored, so we'll keep feeding the machine, and we do appreciate the working relationship towards that. We just rescheduled our joint meeting at the end of March, and I know we all look forward to those. I think it really gets us all on the same sheet and moves us and the township forward. So.
And I would like to thank the staff and the council for a great working relationship.
Great. Ed, thank you. That concludes SP1. SP2 is UAJ annual update. Before we begin with that, go ahead, Dave, up, but Mr. Bernier asked to have a couple questions or comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dave, good to see you. I'll be brief. I just wanted to update folks who might just be tuning in to where we're at on a particular issue that involves UAJA. You may or may not be aware of the fact that all municipalities participating in UAJA have to vote to approve any amendments to the current Act 537 sewage plan. And right now, there's a special study underway that recommends an oversizing of a sewer main and pump station in the area of Meeks Lane. And the Center Region Planning Agency is recommending against approving that oversizing as designed for reasons, the reasons they've noted is that that area out there, particularly the Half Moon area, doesn't want the additional growth. And while it makes a lot of sense to build in accommodation for that now, I mean financial sense, they are concerned that it will encourage future development because they'll have, those who are in favor of the development will point to the fact that the sewer is already designed for that additional capacity. So what we have as a township is we appoint Dave and Walter as our reps on UHAA to do what's best on behalf of the township, to do what's best in the best interest of University Joint Authority, but we also participate in regional planning. And what we have here is we have an authority that we participate in recommending one thing, and we have a regional planning agency that we also participate in recommending something else. So it was about time for UHA to do their to come and talk to us, give us our annual report. And I just asked that we could time this in a manner, because we're going to be asked to vote on this in the upcoming next month or so, to ask our UAJA reps to speak specifically to the rationale behind UAJA's desire, so that when we're in a position where we have to vote either to support UAJA's position or Center Region Planning Agency's position, we will have had the opportunity to hear from our own in-house UAJA experts. Thanks, Rich. That's it.
Great, Eric. Thanks for that setup there. Without further ado,
I'd like to thank the Township Board for allowing me to come here, and we might as well go to that question first. I know we shared with the board a report that Corey and the staff put together. Actually, they do this on a monthly basis.
actually, Dave, if you would, please, for those who might not know who you are, if you
Oh, I'm
could.
sorry. I'm David Lipinski. I'm a College Township representative on the Universe Area Joint Authority Board. My apologies.
Not just the representative, the chair of the UAJA board.
Currently.
Thank you.
If I don't show up at a meeting, then they keep re-electing me every year too. But to get back to that, we did provide to the supervisors and staff, and I imagine Ed also got this one, a little more detail about it, and I won't read that to you or read it in the record and all. When we look at expansion, or when we look at rebuilding our system, because of growth in different areas, you have to look at what do we need to do now and what are we going to do 5, 10, 20 years in the future? What might happen in those areas? Again, as noted, we can't go anywhere that the center region permits us, will permit us to. There's just no argument over there. There's no sense for us to try to go there. But you have to look at areas where there is growth. There's the potential for growth, and if we're working in a particular area, what's the best option for us to do from a long term? I believe within there's a part of that is what's the cost difference between the two, upsizing and downsizing. It still comes back to the point is there may never be any development in that area, and the equipment we put in may be oversized for that, but it's more prudent financially to do that now and I hate to use the word risk, possibly overbuild, than to have to go back and rebuild. And again, we can't speak for Half Moon Township, we can't speak for College Township, but we have to look as an authority. If at some point in time we're requested to serve a particular area, what's our assets in that area? I mean, there's different choke points in a sewage system. You know, how much can you take in through a particular pipe or area to get back to the plant? Because the capacity of the plant's not the only worry about it. It's can we get it from wherever it is to the plant? And there's several projects we're involved with in trying to improve that. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, if you don't mind, interjected question. I guess the first question that comes to my mind is, are there other overcapacity situations in the region similar to what you're proposing to build here?
I will defer to my executive director for details on that. Corey?
Yeah, Corey Miller, Executive Director of UAJ. I know the gory details about what happens in all the sewer lines. So yes, there are quite a few locations in the sewer system that have way more capacity than is needed to just serve what is within the sewer service boundary. If you look at the Big Hollow Interceptor and that system, which serves primarily Patton and Ferguson townships, there's enough capacity in the Interceptor sewer system to handle virtually anything that would go all the way to the divide between Spruce Creek and Spring Creek. If any of that land was to be developed as residential or even a mixed commercial, there's just probably not enough to do all of it, but if it went all R1, there would be enough to handle that whole area. Same thing in College Township. There's not a whole lot of land in College Township, whether it's inside the sewer service area or outside, that there isn't capacity for. And that goes way back to when the original Interceptor sewers were built for the College Harris system. They built them big.
So this has been a practice, right?
So there's plenty of capacity in that line as well. So there's only a few places where we don't have capacity. One is the area of Gray's Woods. That's one area. And it was designed intentionally that way because Gray's Woods was kind of an infant development, so they put in what was needed to get them through the first 20 years, knowing that they were going to collect money to upgrade this in the future, or we're now at that future point. Pine Grove Mills was another location where they eventually outgrew their treatment plant and needed to do something completely different. So we are now in our third iteration of that. And I explained that in the report as well. What happens when you don't allow for the future? You get to spend a lot more money. So that's why UAJ, likes to put additional capacity available, whether it gets used or not. It's just smart to have it there. Saves money in the long run.
Thanks, Corey.
Which leads to the end of our report. We haven't had a rate increase for 8 years. And part of that is because there's been growth in the center region, which has brought more customer base in. But a good bit of that has been things we've done to cut our cost and improve our operation. Some of those are mentioned on our report there specifically. Well, we have this little solar field over there too, which has come into point, and that obviously has been a significant impact. But we're looking at getting out of ozone, or getting out of UV and going to ozone to save some money from energy. Looking at a different way of handling our sludge. We still would have it available as a compost and all that. But we're doing different things to try to keep our cost in line in order to manage or minimize any effect on our ratepayers. And speaking of ratepayers, we have an active committee right now that is evaluating how we rate and how we assess cost. And we've had that going on for a while. It's led by Brian Dempsey, our vice chair. And it includes people not on our board, including Tom Saunders on that board. He volunteered to get in there and he's involved with it. And we're getting a lot of input back there. What's the fairest way to put rates? The most critical thing with rates coming up right now is State College Borough. Their agreement is over. We've apprised them that we're going to go to the same rate way that we do with the rest of the townships. And absent any other change in that, they'll go forward and pay basically the same EDU style rates that everybody else does. We can go into some details on what our report showed, that because they've increased their population, which has increased their organic loading, with not necessarily increasing their hydraulic loading because of water saving, we're treating a lot more out of them than prior. Well, that's what the agreement was set up before. We honored the agreement on volumetric. But from a go forward, it's a fairness issue of trying to put everybody in the same point. And that's the other reason we have the whole rate committee looking at, is there something within the rate structure that needs to be adjusted? And if so, what will be its effect? Again, we've gone 8 years without a rate increase. Will that continue forever? And we've done some significant work, including the air pollution control project that was done here in College Township. So we've been able to utilize our assets very effectively. And that's a testament to the staff led by Corey and the rest of the people over there. They're highly professional and they're so cutting edge. DEP doesn't know what they're doing sometimes, but that's another matter. And we sometimes have to educate DEP on what's going on. But that's where we're at this point. I can go into any details. I'm sure Corey can help you fill in any of the other ones. But basically, we're in compliance. We occasionally get outliers because of conditions, but we're in compliance. From a staffing standpoint, are we fully staffed right now?
We're never fully staffed. We have a lot of retirements going on, so.
Okay. So we have to keep looking for good professional staff. And in many ways, people contact us asking, how do you get things done? So again, the support of all the townships in the borough are important, and we appreciate that. Any other questions I can answer? Or if not me, Corey?
Adam?
Yeah, either for Dave or Corey, with respect to your proposal in terms of the upsized system at Meeks Lane, are there any appurtenances related to the upgrade, upsize of the system that would actually be physically located in Half Moon Township?
No.
Okay, so there's not a pump station, so in essence, we're literally talking about a redesign and improvement of the existing system as it sits today. There would be no additional appurtenances that would be added in any way, shape, or form, not a pump station, not anything like that, that wouldn't be designed, that obviously would not be intended to provide actual connection service, but would be there to facilitate the operation.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
clarify this a little bit. So the lines that are being put in the ground would be ended at the point where they were necessary for servicing the Grays Woods development, which is what this is all about in the beginning. So Grays Woods Boulevard will be the end of the interceptor system. That's about 400 or 500 feet from the Halfmoon Township border.
Okay, so that's all within Patton Township?
Yes, the pump station, all within, yeah.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay. Dustin, any questions for our UAJA folks?
No, I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Okay. Eric, anything follow up on your previous?
No, I just wanted to thank Dave and Corey for coming out. Adam posed the questions that I wanted clarification on. And I just wanted to say that, you know, I'm an authority guy, and I have a profound respect for what we entrust our authorities to do. And that's why we're in a bit of a pickle here, I think. And I wanted to make sure that we went through this is a sensitive issue, as you well know. In fact, this is probably not the last township meeting that Corey's going to have to attend to talk about this. So I just wanted to make sure that we did our due diligence here in, you know, hearing from the authority the particulars of this, so that when it comes to us and we're faced with having to vote or having to try to get some kind of workable compromise, that we've done it from an informed standpoint. So thanks again, Dave and Corey.
Thanks, Eric. Paul?
Yeah, thank you. Real quick question. I don't know the answer to this. Is there any relationship between the size or capacity of the line and high magnitude rainfall events or anything like that? Because, you know, we're expected to see those, and we're already seeing those from a climate change perspective. I mean, we're seeing that. So is there any relationship between those two, or will either one handle that, or are they just completely separate issues?
Yeah, a couple of
Hopefully
things.
not.
If you have existing sewer lines, you have infiltration. You hope to minimize infiltration. With new lines, that's usually not an issue, but if you're tying into something that's a different system, you may get that. We get some interesting flows that have come through at that time, even with, and we have an ongoing process, a program within our authority of going out, cutting down the infiltration and the flow and trying to minimize that, because it costs money to treat that water.
Sure.
When you size something, you have to put a factor in that says, what's my total hydraulic movement I can do in that? And that's a combination of function of how much rain, and there's different things there. All due respect, occasionally, you just can't take it away and the pipe's full. But you do your engineering with due diligence, and HRG's done a good job of doing that work, so what we put in, the capacity there, and the same thing with the pumping capacity.
Right.
You can't build it that could handle anything possible, it wouldn't make any sense feasible. But you do put it in a position where it will take what's a reasonable amount and a reasonable amount above it for a cushion.
But a larger capacity line will give you a greater buffer. Okay, that's what I was getting at. And when you put these lines in, what's the expected life? I mean, when would you normally go in and replace those lines? So in other words, if you go with the smaller capacity, how long are you locking in for without having to make that additional investment?
100 years?
100 years?
Yeah, 100 years.
Okay, I just wanted to go on record as that. I thought it was a long time.
The pump station wears out first.
Yeah,
That just does. Sewer lines normally don't unless something affects them, and that goes back in if you have an earthquake, you have trees growing in, you have different stuff there. But there are sewer lines in the ground that are 200 years old and still in use.
right. Well, and I spent a lot of time in Austin, Texas, and like you said, the pump stations go out, but you want to make sure you have the capacity. Just a really quick, one more question. From a practical standpoint, right, the Act 537 says we have to get to unanimity, if I'm not mistaken, right? All the townships have to get to unanimity. What happens if we don't or can't?
We keep working till we do. Or
No,
you-
just from
or
a
you
very
keep-
practical
or you keep the
standpoint, what
existing-
happens?
Right, you either keep the existing 537 plan, or you keep working till you find a consensus on it and everything. Is that fair?
In deference to that, 5730, a plan costs money.
Yes.
There's an engineering fee, there's time of the staff, there's time of the townships involved in there. So you hope that you don't have to redo it 5 years from now because situations change. Or boards change, or attitudes change, or different stuff there.
Yeah,
So you try to go there, but again, the UAJ is the one asking for it because we need to do something. It's up to the townships or center region to decide.
from a completely practical standpoint, what happens if we can't get there? Where does that then put the authority? Where does that then put the townships and the municipalities?
Yeah. As a side, among the board, whenever Corey says 537, we all groan. So does the staff too, but, you know, we realize there are times that has to be done, and
Yep.
we do what we have to do.
Well, thank you for all that you do with that. That's all I had. Thank you very much.
It's an effort not taken lightly. Carla?
Yeah, thanks. Can you just kind of give a brief overview of like our nutrient capacity at the current phase? Is some of the changes that we've made recently, has that helped some of our nutrient capacity issues?
Yeah, why don't you give her the details, please?
Thanks.
So we do have an annual capacity report that we come out with, and that'll be coming probably by the end of April, early May, we'll have that out. Based on last year's capacity report, we have enough nutrient capacity to handle the needs for at least the next 20 years, if not more. We did make some changes to the treatment plant that have helped things, and we're making more changes that will help things. So I think that we're in pretty good shape there.
Great. And I also wanted to add that I very much respect the way that you think forward as an authority. I remember when the ultraviolet light was like the very cool thing. And now we're moving on. So I just, you know, you're not hanging your hat up on your win there and sitting on it. You're continuing to move forward, and I think that's admirable. So thanks for the work that you do.
One thing you may notice if you go to the plant, there's a sign that we're no longer taking wood waste and refuse. That doesn't affect the township and all that. Our processes are changing, and we don't have that need where other people could bring stuff there. So we're limiting what we'll accept in that wood waste, which we use for our processes, to the townships and the ones we already have an experience with or relationship with.
Great. Good.
Nope, perfect.
I'd just like to also acknowledge that our other UAJ rep, Walt Ebaugh, is the secretary of the UAJ board. So College Township is not only there, they're leading, which is what we like to see. So thank you very much. Interestingly, I had something come across my news cycle before this was even on the agenda and everything, and it was with regard to the sewer system in London. And in 1850s is when they put that in. They had a population of about 2 million, and it was just so big deal that the engineer wanted to double the size of the pipes at that point. Well, that system is still in place and is now serving 9 million people. And so those type of thinking really pay dividends. I don't think we need 2 million or 9 million yet, but still, conceptually, it's the same kind of thing. If you're going to be in the ground, you know, do it smartly and everything. to Carla's point, the proactivity in looking at the NIO infiltration, the sizing, the energy consumption, and the nutrient tweaks to stretch. I mean, that, you guys are really leading the way on that, not just in the region, but state, national, and everything. So please keep that up. On behalf of the residents of College Township, thank you for dealing with your odor issue. The number of complaints to Adam are very nil. I don't want to jinx it, but.
Wasn't that the best thing to come out of 2020?
Yeah.
Or the only good thing to come out of 2020?
Yeah, so, it did not go unnoticed. All this other good stuff you're doing, second to that one, for the residents of College Township. If you would, could you share anything of the goings-on with Kissinger Meadow? With the discharges and processes and all that good stuff?
So we are still appealing our permit for that project because DEP, while they have a report that shows very clearly that our project at the Kissinger Meadow was one of the reasons why the stream is getting upgraded to high-quality cold water fishery, they still have concerns about what we're doing there. So they want us to control our discharge during low flow conditions. In other words, we should, I guess, not be discharging whenever there's not much water in the stream. Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because my understanding is that fish generally like water. So I don't get where DEP is going with this. So hopefully at some point their scientists will figure this out. We've been fighting with them for over 2 years. Probably have 2 more years. We might actually get the next permit cycle before we know the answer.
Is the Fish Commission part of it?
The Fish Commission also appealed our permit as well, so it's a 3-way discussion. I think the evidence is very clear that there's lots more fish and lots more big fish in that area than there ever were before. I don't think it takes rocket science to figure out why. Things that we are planning to do in the near future, we have some repairs to make in there. You may have noticed as you go by there's a couple places where there's water coming out of the ground where it shouldn't be coming out of the ground. Well, apparently during one of the freezes this winter, we had a pipe rupture, so we got to fix that. So at some point we'll be turning off the subsurface flow so it can dry out enough so that we can get in there and do that without making big holes. And that'll be mostly handwork, or it might be a very small piece of equipment. But generally, it's working very well. I really don't understand their logic.
Why do we have the line we have out to Mountain View? If you want to give it any.
Oh, sure. The Mountain View line out to Harris Township is in service, and it now supplies water to the golf course. The line also runs to Tussey Ski Resort, and we have to do another permitting round with DEP in order to get that to happen. So for some odd reason, even though there is a snowmaking operation at Hidden Valley Ski Resort that has been there for over 30 years using effluent that is partially treated, for some reason we have to go through and get a whole NPDES discharge permit, put it in a pond so that the Tussey can take it and use it for making snow. I don't understand DEP most of the time. I don't know that anybody does. But we will win eventually.
Interesting. Well, please keep up the good fight.
Appreciate the persistence.
Yes, please keep up the good fight.
As a resident up above, on top of the hill looking, down in the slab cabin, there are bigger fish. It is a healthier stream than it has been in a long time. I can attest to that. And as a family of skiers, we also appreciate the snow.
We should you to address the DEP if you want.
For all the good it'll do,
Yeah, I was just gonna
absolutely,
say,
please.
just begin beating your head on the wall now.
And one thing to tell Adam
Please.
privately, but is there anything else here?
No, nothing. I think council's all spoke. Yep, thank you.
It is a nice little stream to fish.
Yeah.
Just walk
Slap
down the
cabin?
hill, I'm there in 5 minutes.
Where do you fish
Beautiful.
at?
What's that?
Where at in the stream?
Just along Slab Cabin Run.
Oh, the park there?
Oh, yeah, yeah, between there and the golf course, you can walk, there's a little path down from Cottonwood.
Corey, thank you. Dave, thank you once again. Please give our best to Walt, and I'm sure we'll be seeing and talking to you all very soon on that 3-numbered thing that we shall not speak.
Have a good day, all. Take care.
Thanks.
Thank you, Dave.
Continuing on in the agenda, reports, manager's update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of quick highlights here. The first is, as has been mentioned several times, we now have a new date. We have rescheduled the joint council PC work session that was originally set for the 24th of February. The new date is Tuesday, March 29th at 7:00 p.m. and that will be here. So all the proper notices will be forthcoming related to that. Also wanted to mention that there is a modified draft remand letter that is out to council. It has been circulated for comments. So we're looking to receive any input from council on that so that we can get that on to LTAC, who I believe is anticipating another meeting at the end of this month. So that's something that we want to be sure that they have in hand well in advance. The draft master plan for the Spring Creek Park will be coming to council at our next meeting for discussion with the park representatives as well as the consultant that has been working on that project. And that concludes the updates that I have or that I wanted to highlight for this evening. But if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Questions for the manager? Eric, we'll start with you. None? Thank you. Paul?
None, thank you.
Carla? Dustin?
None.
Okay. Council, on the remand, do we have anything to offer? Any further revision? We had that one correction on the one item. Anything else that, or is that remand letter free to go?
Good
I'm
for-
seeing thumbs up.
Good with
Eric,
me.
you good? Yep, thanks. Okay, very good. Adam, you got your direction?
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
COG Regional County and Liaison Reports. Paul, have you had any? No?
No, sir.
Carla? Anything? I doubt it.
I
We're in the
remember
third
being at a
day.
meeting
Oh,
recently, but
okay.
I don't,
I can't help you there. I run through the fog of meetings often. Dustin, anything?
Nothing to report. The Human Resources was canceled.
Great. Eric, I think I saw a written.
Yeah, facilities from Tuesday, March 1st was canceled due to lack of agenda items. And we did have a Lucy meeting today, and I haven't had time to put my report together. I will put out a written report, nothing that can't wait until the next meeting. And I did provide a copy of the MPO's own report along with my report today for the Center County MPO Coordinating Committee meeting that was held Tuesday, February 22nd. Since I just sent it out today, I think the easiest thing to do is for me to just read the 4 bullet point items that I wanted to draw your attention to out of the MPO report that I think is relevant at least to most of the township and anybody listening. The first was that I was reelected chair and Commissioner Pipe was reelected vice chair. The second was we got a nice overview from staff on the recently passed transportation legislation, the Infrastructure and Investment and Jobs Act, which is being called the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law or Bill. And there's a link in the report, the MPO report, not my township report, that gives a really good, concise overview of the positive financial impact that it's going to have on the county's transportation projects. What I wanted to note was there was a recommendation on that last slide of the presentation to form a subcommittee And this slide was added at my request because in addition to the increases in formula funding that the legislation is going to provide us, there is significant revenue opportunities available via discretionary competitive grants through this legislation. And I want to take full advantage of this opportunity on behalf of the county, but I'm concerned about the in-house resources available to research, apply, and if awarded, manage these grant opportunities. So we came up with the idea of putting a subcommittee together to first prioritize the opportunities, the funding, the projects and the funding we'd like to go out after, and then more importantly, figure out the best road to take advantage of them. Because let's be honest, it's no different than a township. You know, these grants take time, some level of skill to put together, to apply. We just went through this with Mike Bloom. And so we might have to spend a little money in order to get a little money. And that's what the subcommittee is going to discuss. The third bullet point was we had to update both our current tip and the projected tip because part of the legislation bumped up formula funding. So we're receiving a lot more money than we had planned on. So we're actually able to add a few more county transportation projects into the list, into our current tip and into our proposed tip. And the last thing was we got our monthly or our regular update from Penndot on the State College Area Connector project. And I had asked Penndot as part of this update to review the timeline for this committee with the idea of reminding everyone, not just MPO members, but all the municipalities involved, where we are in the process. Most notably, that we are a year away from the current options that are all being bandied about, being researched and being reduced down to several recommended options that will go on for further consideration via environmental and preliminary engineering. That process, the preliminary environmental vetting and preliminary engineering, will take 2 years. So we're about 3 years away from any decision on a single recommended solution. During that time, there will be multiple opportunities for formal comment, starting later this month with another public officials open house, Wednesday, March 30th, and then about a week later, another round of public meetings similar to the ones that were held in Boalsburg a couple of months ago. So the takeaway here is, you know, people don't need to panic. You know, nothing's been determined yet. Penndot has established a very deliberate and very publicly engaging process that is centered around data and science. And so the decisions that come a year from now on which one of these options will be moved into the second phase will be based on that process. And then the second phase is 2 years long, intentionally deliberate. So we're 3 years away from a decision being made. There's plenty of opportunity for public comment and further study and vetting of all the options. That's it, Rich.
Great, thanks. Questions for Eric?
Just,
Paul?
real quick. Thanks for that, particularly last bullet point, I think sets a lot of people's mind at ease. They were worried that things were moving forward a little more quickly, having had a lot of conversations. So that's very helpful.
Yes, that was the intent. That was the intent.
No, thank you for chasing that down and for clarifying it, because it is very timely and it is something that people are concerned about. I just wanted to ask a real quick question about the discretionary competitive grant, opportunities. Am I understanding that you want to put together a subcommittee that may then engage outside consulting firms or something to write these and then administer them? Or is it more about what's the limitation of the capacity of staff or resources or time now?
Excellent question. And the subcommittee is going to look at both of those.
Okay.
They're going to look at what we can go after given current resources in-house. And what could we conceivably receive if we were willing to engage outside consultants, understanding we'd have to pay them? And would the return on investment be worthwhile?
Right,
So the answer to that question is both.
okay,
And we have to move quickly. That's why we've already got the subcommittee formed. We tentatively have a meeting scheduled for towards the end of this month. But we have to we're going to be looking in detail at both of those options. And we may utilize both.
yeah, I was gonna say that those aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, right? Because you
No,
could do both
absolutely
for
not.
different projects, and the advantage of being able to scale up quickly with a consultant, but then also being able to, once the project is over, you don't have that ongoing sort of cost. So that sounds really great and innovative, and thank you for pursuing that. Great
It's exciting.
opportunities, yeah.
It
That's
is,
all I have.
it is,
Thank you.
thanks.
Anything else for Eric?
Eric, will we find out more about the public officials open house on Wednesday, the 30th?
Yeah, I probably jumped the gun. That is the date. It will be Wednesday, March 30th.
Okay.
But there will be an official invitation coming out from Penndot.
Okay, just wanted to make sure.
So if you can, just stick that in your calendar. It's probably going to be the same time frame as the last one, which would have been late afternoon, early evening. It's one of the reasons that I wasn't available on the 30th for our joint work session. We ended up on the 29th anyway, so.
Right. Okay, anything else for Eric? Okay. For COG, none of my stuff is met yet. Fine.
Hey, Rich,
Yep, go ahead.
can I jump in a minute?
Yep, go ahead.
Hey, while Dave was speaking, I got an email that one of the legs of my flight tomorrow has been canceled and I need to rebook. And if you've ever been down this road, seats go quickly.
So you need to step out?
I gotta step out and I gotta get on this, or I'm gonna be stuck in halfway there tomorrow.
Yeah.
Go get 'em.
For a long period of time. Thanks.
We'll try and carry on without you. Thanks. Take care. Yeah, under COG, just a little rehash on the general forum that occurred. 2 points. We've been working with staff on the roll call. I don't know if you noticed, we had a lot of people that didn't get acknowledged or didn't get to the roll call, and that Scott was trying to do too much and everything. So what's gonna occur is that anybody that's RSVP'd that's in or that did not RSVP, and unfortunately there's too many of those, and I sent a note to the local chairs asking, to reinforce, please, that's for a big organization like that, that's a simple gesture that really helps staff plan for that and everything. So we'll improve with that. The unit vote, compliments to College Township for being the only ones that executed it correctly and properly and completely. So thank you. Clearly people had read up and we got it done. So, and just on another note, we've heard from our friends over in Half Moon. Unfortunately, they're going through some growing pains or to ungrow pains or something like that, but they recently had votes to withdraw from CNET, which failed by a 2-3 vote, which is good for transparency. And then they also, there was a motion to dismiss their manager, which also failed, and they were, they'll be continuing on. The irony of that for me is I was in a meeting the next day, and the manager was out assaulting and plowing, so kudos to her. So, but just again, the RSVP, if you would, please, when the agenda comes in and the note is there, just please take the moment and click in. They've made it so painless for us and everything. That's all I had on that. Moving on to our diversity, equity, and inclusion reports, the only thing that I had on there is I would just point that the COG reaffirmed their various resolutions with regard to this subject. I enjoyed the conversation that we had there. It seemed clear that the region wants to see that talked about often and everything. So that follows similar to what we did at our previous meeting, that we blow the dust off and make sure that we're saying this is who we are and this is what we believe. So I appreciated everybody's support for that. Paul, did you have something on that?
Just, I wanted to acknowledge that March is Women's History Month, and that there are a number of events that are happening on the Penn State campus. So there was recently an article in the Collegian that listed a lot of those. I'm sure there are other sources for that as well, but I just wanted to make sure that we were aware of those. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul. And again, this segment of the report section is open to the public. If anybody in the public has anything that they would like to share with us in the diversity, equity, inclusion, now would be the appropriate time. Or members of council.
Okay,
Carla.
thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to throw out there that a subsect of the Campus and Community and Unity group called the Anti-Bias Coalition is kind of reformed. Sharima's stepped onto bigger, better things, or I don't know, other things, stepped down from leading that group, and stepping in are two fabulous members of our community at large, Virginia Squire and Lori McGarry. So they are holding, for the past, bit, these meetings have been held via Zoom. They are planning to hold an in-person meeting coming up here, and I just wanted to shout out to the public. If anybody in our township is interested in that kind of endeavor, please reach out to me or Paul or any of the council members, and we can get you information about that. I'd be happy to talk to you about that. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you, Carla. Anything else under reports? If not, we'll continue on to consent agenda. The consent agenda for March 3rd consists of 2 sets of minutes. One from our February 17th, 2022 public hearing on the Act 537 Calder Way Special Study. A second set from the regular meeting of February 17th. Under correspondence, we received a letter from Penn-Terra dated February 15th, 2022 regarding time extension for the Nittany Casino to June 22nd, 2022. Gosh, that's a lot of twos. Email from Neil Brandt dated February 22nd, 2022 regarding 4 questions regarding Thompson Woods Preserve. A investigation fact sheet from DEP with regard to Benner Township PFAS HSCA updated February 18th, 2022. An email from Carrie Fuller dated March 3rd, 2022 regarding LTAC traffic calming efforts. And under action items, a letter of support for State College Borough's application to the PA Commission on Crime and Delinquency for Justice Assistant Grant, local initiatives funding. Does anyone on council wish to pull any of the consent agenda items?
Mr. Chair, can we just pull very briefly CA2B for a quick moment?
CA2B, certainly.
Thank you.
Any others? If not, I will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda less CA2B.
So moved.
We have a motion.
I'll second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. CA2B, Paul.
Thank you. Adam, I was just curious, I didn't see anything in particular on the manager's update. I know that at our last meeting, I just wanted to make sure that from a public perspective, folks were aware of what's happening with the Thompson Woods. We alluded to the whole conversation around the Aspen Heights development, and I just want to make sure that we have clarity around where we are.
Right. We unfortunately have not made a lot of progress. Where we're at is after meeting toward the end of January, what was determined is there need to be joint resolutions that are adopted by both State College Borough and College Township. That onus is on me to get those documents drafted, at least to get the ball rolling there. I have yet to be able to do so. It is in progress. I'm very confident about the direction that we're headed. We had a very good kind of an organizational meeting where we came to this determination that involved Deb Nardone from Clearwater, as well as representatives from Center Region Parks and Rec, as well as Borough and College representatives. So I'm very optimistic in terms of being able to get this pushed across the finish line and for the group to be convened. I can't hazard a guess at this point exactly when the group will be formally formed and when they can begin to meet, but the intent is clearly there, and it's really a matter of work time and workspace to be able to get that completed and get that in motion.
Great.
So it is by no means an item that has been forgotten. At this point in time, it has more or less been just a dearth of available time to be able to put some things together. We've had a few changes here, and so it's been a little difficult to find some of the time that's necessary to put them together. But again, very optimistic that as soon as we have that opportunity, that it'll go rather quickly.
Yeah. By the way, my intention in asking you this was not to put you on the spot about that. It was just for clarity that we are moving forward. There's a plan. There is progress and there is a plan that's being formulated. So I just wanted to make sure we were very clear on that. So thank you for that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was the only thing I had.
Would you make a motion to approve?
I would absolutely do so.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We have no old business for tonight, which is shocking, but continuing on, new business.
Not that it's not out there.
New business, MB1, Revised Act 537, Special Study for Meeks Lane Pump Station. Adam, you're leading this?
Right. We've already had conversation with Mr. Lipinski as the chair of UAJA. Mr. Miller is still here with us, but we also have in attendance tonight Mr. Corey Rilk. Part of the information, or I should say the bulk of the information that was provided in your packet under NB1 comes from Mr. Rilk, and I believe that this is, and Corey, you can jump in and correct me at any particular point, but in essence, this is the rationale or the position, if you will, of the Center Region Planning Agency relative to the same topic that we just discussed with UAJA. So, in my opinion, Mr. Chair, it's your discretion to what extent you would like to delve in to this matter. We've had the presentation of the argument from UAJA. I think that we could certainly entertain the argument from Center Region Planning Agency as to their position so that you have a full vetting. But that's at your discretion how you choose to move forward.
Council, thoughts? Should we hear from Corey?
He's here.
Corey, you're kind enough to join us. Please share us your wisdom.
Sure. I do have a brief PowerPoint if I could share my screen quick.
Yes.
Staff's working it.
If I can get this going here at some point.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, are you able to see my screen?
We are now.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we received the Act 537 Plan Special Study from UAJ back in November of 2021. The project location is West Patton Township, and as you can kind of hopefully are able to see on my map here, the blue area is the sewer service area in West Patton Township. The white line over here to the edge is the border with Half Moon. So the project purpose is to, the wastewater generated in West Patton Township is going to require 3 additional pump stations within the next few years to deal with planned development in Grays Wood. So the project goal would be to reduce pump stations and to prepare for future development in the SSA. So the CRPA's one issue that we have with this is that it considers EDUs that are associated with the Half Moon Township Small Area Plan. In fact, a total of 645 EDUs. So the Half Moon Township Small Area Plan was approved in 2018. However, the subsequent DRI was unanimously denied in 2019. From what the board's current perspective, or excuse me, their perspective at that time was they did not want sewer service to be expanded. So the special study alternatives that we've been that are in this study right now are the UAJA alternative, which is to install the pump station near Spring Hollow Farm. It would be able to handle the 645 EDUs, and then it would eventually then discharge to the Valley Vista Interceptor. Our alternative is the exact same alternative to that, except where we would remove the 645 EDUs. So here's an idea kind of just showing where the project would entail. The red line is 550, Meeks Lane Pump Station would be here, following the orange line out to the Valley View Interceptor to eventually go to UAJA for treatment. So the CRPA's recommended alternative is our alternative, which eliminates 3 pump stations, proposed pump stations and existing pump stations, and it does not contain any EDUs outside of the SSA. It is consistent with our comprehensive plan, which outlines the sewer service area, and it allows for Half Moon Township to decide if and when sewer should come to their township. And I mean, I'm happy to try to answer any questions. And I should say there too, that Mr. Miller has said so in past meetings, and they look at things on an engineering side, and planners, we look at things, you know, to be in line with our comprehensive plan. So I feel like it's just 2 different opinions, and we always end up working together to get stuff done. So we definitely have a very good working relationship that way.
Great, thanks, Corey. I'll open it to College Township staff to start. Any thoughts, comments they would like to share?
Yeah, Corey, I have to ask the question. You know, the development of regional impact decisions, as you say, your recommendation considers the fact that it leaves it to Half Moon Township to ultimately make the decision about EDUs. The sizing of the project that was proposed by UAJA does not infringe on that in any way, does it? Or do I misunderstand the DRI process?
It does not expand. The special study itself does not propose to go into Half Moon Township. I feel that the way the CRPA looks at it is by even including 645 EDUs, which are outside of the current sewer service area, that itself is a de facto expansion of the sewer service area.
I understand your thinking, but am I correct in that ultimately it's ultimately up to Half Moon Township to make that determination? And as I understand, the host municipality has to be in favor of any expansion of the sewer service area or the growth boundary. Is that correct?
That is true. Just for the special study itself that we're looking at right now, all 6 of the municipalities are required to adopt that by resolution. So that needs to be a unanimous vote. For expansion of a DRI or a sewer service area expansion, 5 of the 6 municipalities need to be have a vote for approval, including the host municipality.
Thank you. Yes, I recall that. Yes. Thank you, Corey. That was my only question.
So did I hear that correctly, that the special study has a higher bar than the DRI?
The expansion.
The expansion.
That is true.
Higher
That's
bar
due
than
to
the
a
expansion.
Just to study it has a higher bar than to actually expand?
Well, the history there, and Corey,
No,
probably.
I know the history.
Yeah.
I'm just
Okay.
saying,
Yeah.
the study and everything. And we've seen how fun unanimous votes can be. That is a high bar and everything. Anything else from College Township staff on that? Corey Miller, anything that you'd like to add after seeing that? Adam, this is just an informational at this point.
Yeah, this is informational, and I think as we had alluded at some point in the agenda materials, this topic is yet to be referred to the municipalities for consideration and comment. We piggybacked on UAJA's annual presentations, knowing that this was eventually going to work its way to council, taking the opportunity to have both Mr. Miller and UAJA representatives as well as Corey Rowe being here representing CRPA to simply lay out the
positions,
problem,
the positions,
so
the two
the council
positions.
had a better understanding.
Right, and it is coming sooner, as I believe it's gonna hit the March general forum for referral back to the municipalities. So we are gonna see this sooner rather than later, so this is very timely, so we appreciate. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, if I can jump in for a second?
Yep.
Actually, we received word from UAJ that they're still having a few access issues with this plan, so it hasn't even went to committee yet.
Okay,
So it will go to CRPC and Lucy in April,
oh, okay, good,
and probably go through to exec and general forum at that time.
very good, thank you for clarifying that. Council, anything while we have these knowledgeable folks?
I do actually have a question, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
Mr.
please,
Chair.
please.
Corey, would you mind putting up the last slide that you had with all the bullets, the benefits, and if you can, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but.
No, that's fine, I just have to find it here on my computer.
It was the last one where you listed out sort of the benefits and costs of the CRPC, you know.
Sure.
Basically what I wanted to point out was, if I read that right, and I just wanted to make sure that I did, that last bullet said that this would allow Half Moon Township.
It did.
There you go. Right. Allows Half Moon Township to decide if and when the public sewer becomes available. Actually, I think it does the opposite, because you're making that decision for the next 100 years if that line is, right? So you're basically, if you only build to the capacity of the current system, you're sort of taking it out of their hands if they ever do decide they want to expand the boundary. Am I correct in
I don't know
reading
that it takes it out of it, but it
But-
creates an economic,
Well, that's, unless they would decide to pay for it, or the other
Right.
municipalities would
Right.
get together and say,
Or
we are
you.
going to absorb the cost of doing so.
Corey's got a couple bucks.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I understood that, because it seems to me that it's kind of the opposite. Unless we're going to incur a very significant cost to upgrade the line, if in 10 years, they have a new board and they decide that they want to expand.
Yeah, and then add Adam's previous comments to that, that Half Moon Township is able to decide if and when public sewer becomes available, whether or not
It's even
built to
feasible
it.
at that point. That's what I was saying. It kind of, in my mind, it almost seems the opposite. It locks in Half Moon Township, in a sense, at least potentially financially.
Sure, the other one that you could throw out there is, who knows where the regulatory hurdles are gonna go to. So, why, in general, you wanna do it's like doing a land development, land development plan, even though you may not be building it today, you wanna lock in the current rules of the game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I just
so
wanted to
that's-
make sure I was understanding it
Yep.
properly, because I kind of read it in an opposite way.
Sure.
So, but thank you, Corey, I appreciate that. And again, I didn't mean to put you on the spot with throwing that back up there.
Okay,
That was
so
all I
this
had,
is
Mr.
a stay tuned and coming potentially in April.
Very exciting.
So, the Coreys, thank you both.
Yeah.
If there's nothing else, we'll continue on. Our next item, NB2, Township Debt Issuance Ordinance O-22-03. Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just kick this off real quick with a quick summary of where we're at with that. At the February 3rd council meeting, staff provided council with number one, a listing of projects to be funded with long-term financing, and number two, an analysis of outstanding debt obligations that could possibly be refinanced in conjunction with securing new debt to fund long-term projects. Council then authorized an agreement with Concord Public Finance to move forward with recommending a structure for new debt issued and to solicit financing proposals from financial institutions. As part of that service, Concord was expected to compare the results with the bond market and issue a recommendation after evaluating proposals and doing the comparison. That work has been completed, and Chris Gibbons, representing Concord Public Finance, is here tonight to present to Council the methodology used and the results of his work. An ordinance authorizing the issuance of debt has also been prepared by Bond Counsel for consideration, and Rhonda Lord is available to answer any questions Council may have on that. Staff has worked closely with Mr. Gibbons and also with Mr. Lord throughout the process and is comfortable recommending Council adopt Ordinance O-22-03. With that, I will turn it over to Mr. Gibbons to give his presentation.
Thank you, sir.
The lights, which one do you want me to? You guys okay for the lights with that, reading that? All right.
Thanks for asking.
Well, it's nice to be here physically with you finally. It's been a long time coming. My drive up this afternoon was strange to me. I used to take this drive all the time. Hasn't happened for a while, so nice to be here in person. To follow up what Mr. Longhead described, I've got the 30,000-foot view, and then we can go in down to the minutia of however much you want. There's a lot of minutia here. I think that we can move ahead using the handout that I just provided for you. This handout is the exact same handout that was part of your packet. Bob and I just thought maybe in color it might be a little easier to read, so that's why you have it again. So the 30,000-foot view is that you had identified $3 million in capital projects. You also had two different loans outstanding, a 2014 and 2016 loan, with interest rates that are slightly higher than current market. So the idea was to, as Mr. Long had indicated, move out with bank loan requests for proposals for both the permanent financing of the $3 million that you're looking for and the possibility of refinancing the existing 2014 and 2016 notes. So we solicited 35 different banks. We received proposals from 7 of those banks, a total of 28 proposals. That's actually a great number. I think that's a testament to your credit standing in the market, so congratulations on that part as well. The best proposal is plural, for both the refinance of the existing debt and the issuance of the new money was from Jersey Shore State Bank. We then compared the Jersey Shore State Bank proposals to what was available in the bond market, and the debt service costs for the bank loan are considerably lower than what is available in the current bond market. I also think it's important to note the Jersey Shore Bank proposal on the project financing, the $3 million of project financing, actually has a drawdown feature that allows you to draw the monies down over a 3-year period. So just like a credit card, you're really only you're only paying for the interest that you use of that $3 million. I know that has come into a great advantage for the township in the past, and has saved the township a significant amount of interest expense. So it's good to know that the new projects that you're considering will also have that same opportunity to reduce total interest expense over the term of the loan. So the results of the financing, I think, are 3. The projects, the $3 million capital projects, are financed with overall annual payments overall annual payments, not the payments themselves for this particular financing, but we discussed that a little bit at our last meeting in February. But the overall payments of all your existing debt plus your new debt will increase the total debt service by approximately $9,600 over what you have right now. The Series A proposal for the finance of those capital projects also includes the drawdown feature that I mentioned. And the refinance, number 3, the refinance, the Jersey Shore State Bank proposal gives us a 10-year fixed rate of 1.77 with a total interest rate cap after that point, because the loan does become variable after the 7th year, of 3.5%. So effectively, from a refinance standpoint, first of all, the 1.77% rate is lower than the variable rate you pay currently on the 2014 loan, and it's also lower than the fixed rate you currently pay in the 2016 loan. In addition to that, the 2014 loan, although it is at a variable rate, it has an interest rate cap of 4.5% on it. So essentially, what this loan does is also reduces the possible interest cost that the township might pay on the remaining 2014 loan. And then, because you're reducing your interest expense on that loan, you don't have to budget as much for that loan either. And you can use that budgeted amount towards the new capital projects, which is quite frankly why your total debt service increases only by $9,600, because you're realizing roughly $50,000 or so of interest savings in the refinance of the 2016, and the reduction of interest rate exposure on the 2014 and the 16, which gives you that budgetary room to produce debt service costs that are effectively the same as what you're paying right now. I'll stop there because that's kind of the 30,000 foot. I can go into much more detail if you'd like, but I'll look for a nod on how you'd like to proceed.
Any questions for Chris at this point? Any staff comments or anything? No? Drive on, Chris.
Okay. So my second page, page 2, is just a summary of all the proposals that were received. The highlighted proposals are the proposals that are being recommended. Column 1, Jersey Shore State Bank with a fixed rate for the entire 15-year or so term of the $3 million you're going to borrow of 1.97%. And column 20, Jersey Shore State Bank with a fixed rate for 10 years of 1.77 and an interest rate cap of 3.5%. We actually are recommending column 20 over column 14, Jersey Shore State Bank, because the actual, if you assume the interest rate of 3.5% after the fixed rate, that all-in blended rate, if you will, is actually lower than the fixed rate that Jersey Shore State Bank provided. So that's why we are recommending row 20 instead of row 14. The last issue I want to mention on this page was the debt service comparison that I highlighted in the bottom left-hand corner, bank loan versus bond market. As you can see, it's well over $400,000 of total interest savings over the term of the loan. It gives you the flexibility of drawing down the funds to actually reduce that interest cost. And quite frankly, the bank loan is prepayable at any time, gives you financial flexibility going forward as well. The next page is the sources and uses. Wanted to make sure that we understood how much the total borrowing sizes will be. First of all, in the orange box, the general obligation note, Series A 2022, is $3,019,000 to finance $3 million of the capital projects and to pay for the issuance costs related to that $3 million borrowing, $3,019,000 borrowing. In the green box in the middle of the page is the breakdown of both the refinance of the series of 2014 and the series of 2016. It will be combined to be known as the general obligation note Series AA of 2022. That total will be $4,741,000. So the total amount of the proposed borrowing under your ordinance this evening is $7,760,000. I also have broken out what the uses of those monies will be below. The capital projects paying off the two loans, as well as the issuance costs, which are further broken out on the bottom of the page as well. Moving along then on page 4, is noted on the bottom right-hand corner of my handout. This is what the repayment schedule for the Series A of 2022 will be. The Series A 2022 is for the new money, the $3 million for projects. I think it's important to note that in column 6, you'll see that the payments that the township will make over the next 8+ years are approximately $60,000, then it gets ramped up to approximately $486,000 from years 2030 out to 2036. The reason that is because your existing debt service of the 14 and 16 loans you have outstanding actually decrease. That gives you a budgetary room to actually increase payments on a new borrowing, which this does. And as I mentioned, it effectively creates overall payments that will be level throughout the term, and I'll get to showing that in a minute as well. Next page then, bottom right-hand corner indicated is page 5. This is the total debt service for the general obligation note series AA of 2022 of $4,741,000. In this case, I want to highlight column 17, the far right of that. As you can see, the difference is approximately $56,000 through 2029, and then $15,000 through the term of the loan 2035. That represents both interest savings that I mentioned on the 2016 loan and reduced interest exposure from both the 2014 loan, that you no longer will have a interest rate cap of 4.5% or 5%, quite frankly, in the 2016 loan. And it gives you that room that we use, that 17, on column 17, that $56,000 is then used to provide budgetary room for new debt service that were just indicated in the previous page for the new borrowing. I know there's a lot to throw at here. I'm just going to the last page here. The last page shows you a comparison of what you're paying now if you didn't do anything compared to what you will pay going forward. Column 21 is the column that you would care about, which is the new debt service for all of your outstanding debt. Column 22 is your existing debt service if you did nothing this evening. And then column 23 is just the difference. So as you can see with column 21, your payments stay at $615,000 through 2035, and then it's completely paid off by 2036. So as you can see, then column 23 shows you the difference between those two columns, 21 and 22. So I think this accomplishes all the goals of the township. Refinance existing debt, finance capital projects of $3 million, provide flexibility to only pay the interest that you actually draw down on the funds. And also, I think it's also important to note that the terms of the refinancing of the existing debt, the terms have not been extended at all. We just matched the existing terms. So if you didn't move ahead with the refinance this evening for the 16 or 14s, the repayment structure that I'm proposing for this evening would be the same as if you didn't do anything. So that's the sum of my presentation. Questions? I know I said a lot there, so.
Great. Staff, anything you'd like to throw?
Yeah, Chris, just very quickly, in addition to taking a look at banks and bank loans, I know that you did evaluate the bond market as
Yes.
well. Can you maybe very briefly talk a little bit about what you did as far as looking at the bond market?
Sure.
As providing us options?
There were several competitive issues that were sold at approximately the same time we received these proposals. It was then taken, I then needed to take those different financing bids that were put on the market and essentially use the interest rates achieved in those bids compared to the interest rates that we realized in the RFP for the bank proposals. And ultimately, not just the interest rates, but the issuance costs related to a bond issue are significantly greater than issuance costs for a bank loan. So when you combine all those factors together, that's why you get the several $100,000 of lower debt service costs using the bank loan versus the bond issue.
Great, thank you.
And they're generally not as flexible as the bank.
Oh, that's also true, yes.
Anything else from Bob?
No,
Anything?
I think Mr. Takak had asked about the issuance costs and whether or not they were budgeted. And as you can see, the issuance cost is $46,000. We budgeted $55,000. So we were at a foresight. Haven't always done that in the past, because sometimes these things come up really quick. We had the time to do that, so that was nice to be able to do that. And, yeah, I'm very pleased with the outcome of the numbers, and also, from a standpoint of having to deal with the mechanics and the crossing the Ts and dotting the Is, and all the things that go along with the bond issue, the bank issue. I'm pleased that the bank issue, a bank that is what is being proposed here, and it turned out to be the better, the more economic of the alternatives. And the flexibility too, and we truly have saved a lot of interest with the structure of a drawdown note, where we just pay interest on what we have to pay for what we spend. So, yeah, I'm very pleased with this.
Just a question on the 3-year draw period is exactly. Is that a regulatory cap of 3 years, or is that a general practice cap?
It's a general practice. The regulatory cap is that you have to spend the money you're borrowing within 3 years. So we just tie the two together.
Got it.
That if you can only spend your money in 3 years, you also have to show that you're gonna draw it down in 3 years.
Perfect.
And if council will also recall too, and the Water Authority is in the same position here, that the 3 years, we have, in fact, even been able to negotiate an additional time frame whenever we didn't quite have the money spent as quickly as we wanted to. But so, yeah, it's very, very much easier to work with the bank than it is with a bond issue.
Excellent. Ms. Lord, anything that you'd like to share with council? We appreciate you staying on and being available.
Sure. Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. I just have the ordinance, which I think you all have in front of you, which we've drafted and was reviewed by both Mr. Long and Mr. Gibbons. This is what we need to file with the Department of Community and Economic Development in order for you to incur debt. And basically, I'm not going to bore you with every detail of it, but it authorizes you to accept the two purchase proposals that Chris just went over. So for the Series A and the Series B notes, and provides that you will accept the purchase proposal of a Jersey Shore State Bank, and that you will comply with all the provisions of the Debt Act, which are listed throughout the ordinance, and the Internal Revenue Code, which is also in the ordinance, and the Securities and Exchange Commission. The ordinance has several attachments to it. They are a list of the projects for the new money is Exhibit A. Exhibit B is the purchase proposal for the Series A note. Exhibit C is the purchase proposal for the AA note. D and E are the forms of both notes. Series A is form Exhibit D, and Exhibit E is the AA note. And then the two debt service schedules that Chris just went over are Exhibits F and G. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the ordinance at all, but I won't go into great detail on the technical provisions.
Oh, come on. Council, questions for all of our experts?
I got all mine answered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Carla,
thanks.
good? Dustin, good? Okay. If we're comfortable, staff is recommending adoption of the ordinance and has provided a suggested motion.
Sure. Just a quick note on the actual ordinance. It does look like it says ordinance number 0-22-03, but we usually have an actual O at the beginning of those.
Gotcha.
Thanks. Okay, so I move to adopt ordinance O-22-03, authorizing and directing the issuance of general obligation notes Series A of 2022 and Series AA of 2022.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Dustin is seconding. Any further discussion? Anybody online other than our folks? Nope. Okay. Call the question. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Great.
Mr. Gibbons, thank you for
Thank you.
coming
Thanks,
to
Chris.
see us.
Yay!
Safe travels.
Thank you all. Appreciate your your interest and support.
Thanks, Chris.
Continuing on, NB3, College Township Finance Report, Mr. Long.
Okay, I think Jen's going to bring this up on the screen here. Do have a short presentation here for you now that we're at the end of the 2021 year. Okay,
I had it, Bob, don't
that's fine.
Anybody know any finance jokes?
No.
There's lots of them, I'm telling you.
If there's enough interest. I see what you did.
How's that go? Okay. Yeah, we're at the 2020, end of the 2021 year here, and now, I've never done this before, and I want to take a couple of slides just to kind of like recognize the staff in the finance department.
I'm sorry, Bob,
Oh, that's fine. I can talk about that.
okay.
You know, what the numbers don't show, but I really appreciate from the staff standpoint, is the fact that whenever they want to take time off, and you know, we have, of course, a time off schedule, everyone schedules their time around their important duties. In other words, like Tanya, she won't take vacation whenever she's collecting school taxes, you know, busy times like that. And so I really appreciate that. I mean, that's really that's really nice.
So important.
It is. And then number two, you know, with COVID and illness and families and all that kind of stuff, there's always folks who are out or can't be in the office for a week or so or whatever. And everybody just kind of steps up and fills in where needed. So, you know, those kind of things aren't in the numbers, but they are really appreciated. So I'll just run down through the staff here real quick. We have it, and they're listed in order of how long they've been with us. Becky Wagner, she's our Water Authority customer service representative, 21 years of service. And she does the billings and schedules the service calls and provides customer support. And not listed there is 2 pages of spreadsheets and analysis that she does that supports things that Amy does and that I do and that Adam does. And so there's a lot of work that she does, that she generates. Tanya's been with us for 12 years. She started out as a finance office assistant, and then at some point in time, she also then took over the tax collections for us. And so she collects the township and school district taxes, and if someone needs to verify that the tax has been paid for a closing or whatever, she does all those. And she also processes the water authority payments. Kim Petishnock, 5 years. She's our accounting assistant, and she processes all the payables, and she secures all the authorizations for all the invoices, puts them in the system, pays those invoices, files the invoices, does all that work. She also processes the payroll and makes sure the taxes and the forms get filed and paid. And we also send out a number of bills for different various things. We send bills to the school district for collecting their taxes and engineering services and so on and so forth. Does all those, and she also supports the Water Authority Board with doing the minutes, and also the engineering committee and doing their minutes and sitting in on their meetings. So that's what Kim does. Jackie's the newest member of our team. She replaced Jeff Kennedy, who was with us for a number of years. And she's our accountant, 1 year service. And she maintains general ledger, and she also does the monthly bank reconciliations and plagued accounts, and we have a number of those. So there's a lot of reconciliation, and we do this every month because that's an important control as far as managing your cash, and just, you know, it needs to be done, and it gets done on time. She also does the deposits, and she's also kind of the go-to person when there's special assignments and special things that need to be done. For instance, we just had to analyze some natural gas bills, and she, you know, I said, oh, this needs to be done. I set up the spreadsheet. She did it. So you know, she does a lot of special projects. So that's a very valuable function that she provides. Okay, next page is basically just, I won't go through all these metrics here, and you can take it and read these then, but we provide financial services not only to the township, we also do the bookkeeping and audits for the Water Authority, and also the Industrial Development Authority. So that's really 3 entities that we do the bookkeeping for. Of course, we collect both the township and the school district real estate tax bills. Financial management, we do the financial audit support for the Water Authority, township, IDA. There's also a number of audits that take place, from Penndot audits to liquid fuels audits, insurance premium audits, and also retirement plan audits. And there's a lot of audits, which is a good thing because you want to make sure that you're using public money and you want to make sure it's accounted for properly. We also issue this capital improvement program and the Water Authority and township budgets. And then there's a number of regulatory reports that have to be filed periodically, DCD forms, Penndot reports. And then there's a whole ton of surveys, salary surveys, and Penndot does a survey on all the elements of cost you have for roads and all that, and all the road work and stuff. And it's a very tedious report, but we do a lot of those. And a lot of those is also be done by Amy, and Dawn does a number of reports as well. Financial transactions, or the Water Authority. We sent out 13,000 billing notices and collected about $1.74 million in payments. And as far as transactions go, we issued about 1,800 checks between the Water Authority and Township. We sent out about 490 AR bills, and we processed 26 payrolls, totaling approximately 800 employee paid checks and direct deposits, and all those related tax returns and W-2s and 1099s. And then Kim also, she also attends there's a regional meeting of human resource officers. She goes to those meetings, and then I attend the finance director's regional meetings, and they're usually on a monthly basis. And then another duty, of course, is to monitor the project cost and make sure we get the money drawn down on the loans, and that's going to continue after tonight. So that's just a brief update about what our department does. As far as numbers for 2021, the general fund revenue, actual versus budget, this looks a lot different than it did last year. A lot different. You can see where, last year all those blacks were it was reversed. So, but this year we've pretty much been in the black here. Realty transfer tax and earned income tax, and of course the big one is the unexpected federal entitlement, and that was the ARP monies, and that's just half of what we're going to get. So we're going to receive another $531,000 or $500-some thousand in this year here yet. So we'll have over $1 million in the ARP monies, and that, according to the final regulations, is really considered to be revenue replacement, which one of the things we did last year was we had to go through a detailed calculation as to how much we lost, and there was some concern about how that was calculated. But anyhow, the final regulation said now anything under, I think, $10 million, $10 million is considered to be revenue replacement. So that was a nice thing to find out during the year. So overall, we were over budget in revenue by $855,000. And then the next screen here is we're going to look at the general fund expenditures. And just real quickly here, the big part of we were over budget by $574,000 with our expenditures, and you can see the majority of that is due to the transfer of the monies from from the general fund to the capital reserve, which was the ARP monies. So.
This is just general fund, not.
Yeah, that's an
overall.
internal.
That's an internal, yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the big part of that. So between the two then, our revenues were over by 855, we were over by, and expenditures were 584, so that's about $200,000 to the good. Okay, the next screen, we'll just run through the fund balances real quick. You know, in November 2020, we budgeted these ending fund balances here. And then when you get to the next budget year, you want to make sure you have your projected ending balances as close as you can, so that you don't have, so it doesn't impact the next year's budget so much. So in November 2021, we project the numbers, and then finally you have what actually turns out to be the actual numbers, and that's the final column here. And if you look at the bottom here, can you slide down just a little bit?
Which, down or?
Yeah, just go down, up a little bit, I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Right there, yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's, you know, we budgeted 2 million ending fund balances. We projected 2.8 and we ended at 3.0. So, you know, we've been doing this a long time, and I think council does a great job with the budgeting process. We really do. And because these numbers, they can, you know, a lot of things impact budget numbers. A lot of it can be project delays. So, you know, I'm very happy with how we ended up versus how we projected and how we budgeted. Next page, we'll look at the township property taxes. We sent out $2.8 million of property taxes, and we collected 10% penalties of $5,000, gave discounts of $49,000, so we had to account for $2.73 million of taxes. Of that money, 2.7 was distributed to the township, and uncollected was $18,896. And I think that is probably one of the best numbers I ever have seen on hand for the township, which was extremely good. 0.68% of assessed value. Last year was 0.96%. So that's amazing, really. It really is. Okay, now the next screen here, just real quickly, showing what the investment in equipment and infrastructure. We got a leaf loader for $224,000, but 90% of that was paid for by a grant. We did receive that this year. We just received that actually within the last week or two. Same thing with the tow behind, 90% grant paid for it. We completed the walkway, and Brush Valley Road Bridge was $96,000, and we budgeted $108,000. And again, that was mostly paid for by a grant, and I think that was from the county.
Yes,
The
$5.
our $5 fee.
Yeah, fantastic. This is good stuff. And then the pavement evaluation program, $8,500. And I believe Richard had asked before that we show the budget numbers on there as well, and so we've been doing that the last couple years of when we show these numbers here, so they're all there for you to see. Yeah, it's good stuff there. All right, and then looking ahead, we'll have interim financial presentations in May, August, and November. And then this year will be reviewed in March 2023. And it won't be long until we'll be looking at the CIP program here in June. And follow the audit presentation will be hopefully in May. And then we'll be back in the budget season, November, December. And finally, I would like to include this screen here just to remind everybody that on our new township website, which is very nice, we have our budgets, our CIPs, audits, and also opportunities for public service. That's my report.
Awesome. Questions for staff? Dustin, anything?
No, not right now.
Great. Paul?
No, I really appreciated you pointing out the staff and their contributions.
Thank you.
I think that's a new addition, and I like that.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you to them for all their work. That's it.
Carla?
Thanks, yeah, great presentation. How the financial calendar turns. Next episode. Yeah,
Another world.
appreciate it.
Absolutely. I think these reports, we didn't always have these. I think they help us roll into the budget more educated, more comfortable. We already know where we're at, so, that's definitely a sustained thing on that. The other thing, to your less than 1% of tax to tax bureau, you guys need to take a lot of credit for that because you send out notices, multiple notices saying, hey, if you didn't know, you didn't pay yet. And if not, you're gonna get a bill and this is, and everything. And I think those pay dividends. I think it's an investment in getting to that number.
Yeah, we do.
So again, I think that's a sustained kind of thing, so.
And that's because, Tanya, she's a stickler for that. She's on that as soon as, and she follows that schedule. And you didn't mention this too, but you wouldn't, of course, but, the Water Authority has a lot of accounts, and Becky's on those, getting those notices and stuff out, so our receivable, you would not believe how, anybody who works in business and you work with receivables, you always have a bunch of people out here. We don't have that. I mean, and it's really a testament to staff's stick-to-itiveness of getting procedures done on time, all the time.
And the other thing that I would like to add is that Mr. Long is a bit modest here as well. It's also a testament to his involvement, his oversight, his selection of staff, the skills that they have. Bob's done a great job, and by any measure, we're very fortunate to have not only the staff, but the department head, the guy that's at the top of the chain there, making sure that all this actually works like clockwork. And again, since we're doing this, I would tell you that it's been a pleasure over the years working with Bob because I very rarely need to be concerned about financial matters in terms of the way that Bob takes care of these things with integrity, and it's a major plus for the township, and the township residents have no idea the amount of work and effort that go into the finance end of this. So kudos to Bob and the staff that make it work.
Yeah, just one criticism then on your presentation, add a little session for yourself.
That's what he's got Adam for. But the only thing I would say, his influence doesn't stop at the College Township border. He's a significant contributor to the COG, finance and those processes. And so he's benefiting our whole region. So he won't take it, but Adam and I will throw it at him. And the other thing, hopefully in reading some of that, you read through that the residents are satisfied with the value that they're getting and everything, because the sure way they would show is not to pay and everything. So, that kudos overall to staff. Or we have a big enough hammer that the consequence is not worth it. No, but still, let's just keep up and avoid complacency, and I think we're gonna be in great shape. Anything else on the finance report? Bob, any closing comments?
Nope.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Continuing on, NB4, closure of Squirrel Drive for Aspen Height Construction. Mr. Don Fromson.
Thank you. As you're all aware, that Aspen Heights is under construction. I'm not going to follow my memo here verbatim, but I was contacted by the developer's engineer a couple of weeks ago. They're looking forward to doing some of the right turn lane in off of College Avenue and looking at the grade adjustments at the entrance from Squirrel Drive onto College Avenue. If you recall back during the plan review process, I had requested that they do some minor grade adjustments at the bottom. If you've ever driven down that hill, right before you get to the intersection, you have a little bit of a steeper slope. So I asked them to adjust the slopes to make it a little less steep at right at the entrance. And if you look at your, the memo that I put out, the first view is a plan view of that area. And you can, it's a little hard to see, but the lighter lines that are dashed are existing contours, and the dark lines with numbers are the proposed. And you can see it's very minor. It's much easier to see actually on the profile. Those blocks, the distance between the lines on the vertical, I should have labeled those, is 5 feet. So, and the distance on the horizontal is 50 feet.
It's stretched out.
Yeah, so,
Don't worry, everybody.
It's a vertical exaggeration of 10. So the maximum, we're actually adjusting grade there is only 6 inches roughly. And that work gets stopped, it starts at the, right at College Avenue, and it ends before you get to the entrance into Tobacco Square, formerly Choice Cigarettes. But one of the things the contractor noted to the developer's engineer is, due to the narrow width of Squirrel Drive now, you go back up above, it's really going to be difficult and a little bit unsafe to be trying to do this work one lane at a time. So they had requested to close the road while this work is done. And they have actually submitted a detour plan for that. And I asked the engineer, I said, how long does the contractor want to close the road? And he said it could be up to a month, which I think is a little bit of a high number, but I mean, we're talking a couple weeks. One of the problems with that is that pretty much cuts off access to those two businesses, Cove Pizza and Tobacco Square, because I am assuming with the 90% of their business is actually coming off of College Avenue. It's not going to be coming in from the backside. But so we were discussing that, and I said, well, there's a little bit of an issue with that. And the developer's engineer said, well, what if we could look at this two ways? Is we're already donating $100,000 towards a turn lane when such turn lane is warranted, which they gave us a cost estimate of I think it was $300,000 back when they were doing their traffic impact study. So we took that, or we're going to take that money and hold it until such time as another development would go in. You know, if the other side would actually develop out the same way, or something along those lines. And he said, well, we would be willing to donate another $35,000 for that grade adjustment that would be done at the same time as the turn lane, or the turn lane going down off of Squirrel. So I wanted to run this through council. It is a change in an approved plan, so it must be approved by council. And actually, I'm going to be making a slight change to my presentation, because what I'm saying is, in the presentation here, the memo, I say, well, we could either close Squirrel now, do that adjustment, and then once you start the turn lane, you'll have another period of time when the traffic is impacted along there, or do it all at the same time, and then you would still close Squirrel Drive. But I got to looking at it, and actually I'll credit Eric for sending a couple questions in to me about this, and I thought about it a little bit more closely. And if we were to do the turn lane and this grade adjustment at the same time, I don't think we'd be closing the road at all. And the reason for that is phase one of this would be putting in that right turn out lane, which would widen the road another 12 feet. So while you're doing that work, you would be in that lane constructing, and you would close one lane for lay down area and equipment going in and out, trucks. So you would be closing one existing lane and working in this new lane. Once that phase was done, you would flip over, and traffic could then go up the newly constructed turn lane, which wouldn't be signed for turning at that yet. And then we would be able to do that other work on the other side while keeping one lane open. So here I'm presenting two options. One is close it now or close it later. I think that's really, after I really looked at it better, I don't think that's correct. It's close it now or be able to do the work later with maintaining at least one lane of access. Now, if we do it now, they have the ability to do that. It would be late spring, I think is what they're planning on. But if we would save that for a future time, we would have that 35,000. And I looked at that number, I think it is a good number. They originally proposed 25, and I ran some numbers on it, and I thought, well, that's close. So I said, well, give us a factor of safety there. So I think this would cover that cost. Any questions?
Okay, Carla?
Could we just, I just need a second to look over, I wasn't able to look over Eric's comments on this.
Can I ask you?
I mean, if you could just go to some numbers, I can pull them up.
Oh, okay,
I just
sure.
need
Dustin?
a second, yeah.
Yeah,
because.
my first question, and maybe my only, I don't know. No promises. How far in the future are we thinking this would be option, I guess, the new option?
Well,
two?
we really would have no idea at this time. Will that lot, will someone come in next summer or this year with a proposal? Could be, or maybe it never comes.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm getting at is, what's the opinion on how imminent the grade change is? We asked for it for a reason, right?
Yeah,
Is there a safety concern, or?
It makes it somewhat better. Like I said, it's so minor though, and it's been like that now for whenever that road was put in.
The reason it became part and parcel of the plan is because it was a staff comment that was made to the developer. This was not something specific at the time that we were having the conversations with the developer that the council had asked for. But it has over the years been a bone of contention. We've had people that have tried to take RVs up there, for example. That's difficult.
Right.
Some trailers for sure, some difficulties with some types of fire apparatus. So we have known for some time that minor defect, if you will, has been an issue. And so as we were having our internal conversations and discussions relative to traffic, et cetera, that was something that we brought up, and we wanted, if it was at all possible, for the developer to address that. And they had agreed to do it, which is why it was part of the plan that ultimately came forward through Planning Commission and through council.
You want to, just hold up, Ed, go ahead, keep going, Dustin. Anything else?
No.
Okay, great. Ed, yeah, if you would, please.
Don, my one question is, there's gonna be a turning lane off of College Avenue up to Squirrel Drive, right?
Correct.
Okay, and that's gonna take place in very soon.
That's going to be this spring, summer
Okay.
also, and that does not require a closure, if that's what you're going to be requesting.
Okay, well, what I was thinking about is, since they're gonna be doing that right turning lane that's gonna go up Squirrel Drive, why wouldn't you just have all the work done at that one time, because then you're complete? Because when you're coming down the hill and you put that right turn lane in, that could be 2 years from now, 3 years from now, but we take care of that grade issue immediately, which basically, we already know we have a traffic problem or traffic concerns up on Oak Ridge. So when we give them some improvement coming down Squirrel, that may alleviate some of the concern that the people up the road may have.
Yeah, well, the traffic study done by their consultant and reviewed by our traffic engineer shows that is not warranted at this time.
And I understand all that.
The turn, which,
The turning lane out of Squirrel Drive,
Yeah,
The right,
the right hand
but
out.
if you're putting the turning.
he's
lane
talking
in-
about when you're
he's
putting
talking left turn in,
Yeah,
or
when you're
right
the
turn in.
right
Well-
turn in from College.
Why not do that in
College
the grade adjustments?
Yeah.
Well, that's what, the way it is now, that's what is proposed, but the grade adjustments have this closure.
Yeah, I understand that.
Which-
but it might be easier to put everything in all one time. That's on the planning side.
Sure.
Well, if you were looking at two separate projects, like doing the right turn in off of College Avenue, and then this by itself, you lose a little economy of scale. But if you add this to the right turn out, that sort of balances it out. I mean, I guess the difference is if we do it all now, we're talking at least, I'm gonna say 2 weeks for a closure and severe impact to those two businesses. Whereas if we move the grade adjustment into the right turn out lane project, we don't have a closure.
I think it's important that from Don and I's perspective, the real factor here are the two businesses in terms of the impacts. And you know, they had said maybe a month, and we don't think it's going to take anywhere near that. But those businesses would have some impact. Of course, with the delay, there's no guarantee that the right-hand turn lane onto College Avenue off of Squirrel, in theory, ever goes in, right? And that's why we're here in front of you, is to solicit your input, your feedback on this, because we're factoring in, or trying to factor in, that impact to businesses, which we would like to lessen to the extent possible. And there's never a good way to ultimately do that, you know, perfectly. So there would be impacts, but in terms of what and how, what ends up happening here, that's some of our thinking at the moment. If that right turn lane out from Squirrel onto College could be constructed the way that Don had described it, even though it is at a future date, we would minimize or eliminate, I think pretty conclusively, we'd eliminate any financial impact to those businesses. But the trade-off then becomes, now or later, how big of an issue is the grade adjustment? Does it make more sense just to go ahead and bite the bullet and get it done? And that's really what we need your input on.
Okay. After that, anything?
Well, if the businesses are, you know, weighing in as a big concern here, right? Have we talked to them?
I was just gonna say, have we had a conversation?
That's what I was wondering too.
Yeah, we have not.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if the developer has or not.
I don't think they actually did.
Fair enough.
Okay. Are you ready now?
Yeah, I mean, that was my first question as well, is ask the businesses. And I tend to lean toward getting the work done, because time leads to forgetting, leads to 35,000, all of a sudden becomes 75,000, we just don't have them, like, I don't love the putting it off till the someday. If it was something that needed to be done enough to request them to do it, then it's something that needed to be done enough to request them to do it. So without hearing from the businesses saying,
You're gonna put me out of business.
yeah, absolutely not, do not do this. And also, those are the people, more than anybody, who drive right there on that corner right now in this time. I know your neighborhood does a lot, but probably not as much as the people who drive in and out of that spot every single day.
Be surprised.
Yeah.
There's a lot of.
Well, and it pushes that traffic, that detour is through Center Hills Village, and we kind of have an LTAC project right now.
Right.
To-
So I think I'd like to hear from the businesses.
And then I don't think any decision needs made tonight. I don't
Yeah,
think they're looking
right.
to start it tomorrow.
Got it.
So if you want to wait for this additional feedback, that would be,
Well, but I think we need to provide
Yep.
the current lean of council as well, to help you in your discussions.
yeah, okay.
Anything else, Carla?
No, I just, sort of to reiterate what I was trying to say was, the businesses may have some input about the decision at all. Like, not just like closing the street, but also the impact of a change of grade. That was the thought.
Right.
Yeah.
But your lean in a vacuum
In a
is to
vacuum
get it done.
is to get it done.
Okay, that's fair. Paul?
Yeah, a clarification first. If I understood it correctly, what you're saying is, once the work was done for the right turn lane going down Squirrel onto College, you're essentially creating a third lane. And the creation of that third lane allows one of the three to remain open the whole time.
Yeah,
Is
right
that-
now,
There's only two
you're
lanes
adjusting
right now.
grade, and you just don't have enough room, safety-wise, to have barriers or anything in place to do that. But with that additional 10 feet or 12 feet of road, you'll be doing 1.5 at a time, so you'll have a much better situation.
Okay, all right, I just wanted to make sure I was clear on that. Also, a related question, if the work was done now, would it have to be redone later when you move that drain and all of that kind of stuff there? It kind of seems like some of that work, I mean, it's regrading, so I don't know that.
Yeah,
you
well,
have to
the
go
very
back in.
edge, is like you have 2 lanes wide, probably part of that lane that's next to the turning lane, there would be some cut back to get the grades adjusted. So yeah, there would be a little bit of doubling up of the work, yes.
Yeah, because you'd have to then move that
Yep.
drain head, that's what I
Yeah,
was
that's
wondering about.
that's gonna be the biggie on that one.
Right, well, I remember when we
Yeah.
talked about it, and I drive past it every day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a significant feature. I think there might be 2 other arguments in favor of waiting in addition to the 2 businesses. One is something I've mentioned several times, which is a public safety issue. Getting up Squirrel Drive potentially is gonna delay an ambulance or a fire truck or something getting up into Center Hills Village, if I'm understanding that properly.
Well, yeah, if we have it closed, yeah, they will.
Right, they would not get in, they would
Yeah.
have to go through Lamont, or they would have to
Yep.
go around the other way.
Yep.
The other thing was, where does Aspen Heights fit in this? Because I would assume that would stop all the truck traffic up and down Squirrel. I mean, that would be, they would have to time it so that it
That
didn't.
would be, you would start seeing construction traffic on the back end.
Right, and those
Yep.
roads are not built for that.
No.
Right now.
Yeah, definitely not.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
that would
that's
really
that-
shore things up.
That's a very good point, Paul.
So from a timing perspective, this seems.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. So anyway, those, in addition to talking to the businesses, let's just get the full picture in terms of, talk to public safety, Sean Kaufman and Alpha, to Center Lifelink and kind of see what that impact would be. And I would talk to Aspen Heights as well.
Well, you've changed my mind, if that's, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
huge point.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is also why we come to council and put more minds at work on these
I
issues.
drive I drive that road every day.
And
and live in the
I
neighborhood, so-
appreciate the comment. I think one of the last things that we want to do is to divert traffic, especially if it would even happen to be construction traffic.
I think there'd be a lot of people who'd be happy with that construction slowing down, but I don't. It's going to get built, right? And they're gonna divert around it, so I just wanted to be perfectly clear that that's gonna impact it as well. So anyway, thank you, that's all I have.
No, so mine, if it's gonna be done, what mitigation opportunities are there? I think you've said we can't do it half a road at a time. A temporary road, we see that all the time with Penndot, kind of thing. Expedite it, allow longer work hours and everything. To your point, I think the timing of when the work gets done is critical, and it should, if it's gonna get done sooner rather than later, it should be after the big trucks are.
But before the students move in.
But before the students move. Yeah, seriously. So the timing of it, like.
Should I mention Pike Street?
That's, well, that's the other thing too. That's absolutely right.
Timing of Pike Street.
Yeah, because that's happening starting in April for the next 5 to 6 months.
Sure, we don't need to
we know
introduce
College
any more
Township
confusion.
becomes a
Well,
roadmap.
Do you have a big Gantt chart, Don? That's a good point. It's very good.
By the way, as the owner of an RV that has gone up and down that hill, it would really be nice to have a better grade there.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But I just don't know that now.
Well, and I think to your point, the month, I placed a sign one day and I did this and, if you worked the project, that 2 weeks, you could
Unless we get one of these, it's
The weather,
rainy.
the weather,
yeah,
yes,
and-
exactly.
And that's probably what the
I had a
contractor
parking lot
said.
like that last year, I have a lot of respect for
Yeah.
that thought. But yeah, so I think the timing of it is critical, I think the business's input is critical, in,
If I might make
if there's any other mitigators. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to make one more comment. Thank you for not cutting it close on the dollar amount. It makes it, to have a little bit of a factor in there is very helpful to make sure that we're gonna cover our costs down the line.
Yep.
So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
This has been great. This is exactly what we needed. What we
Okay.
were hoping to get is either there's an obvious answer or there's obviously still questions, and so now we know we have some follow-up.
In a
Absolutely.
vacuum, yeah, you wanna get, there's a reason we asked for it.
Exactly.
It's clear it would make it better, and it needs to be better, as better as it can be. 2 weeks is, in a whole project is not, ask the folks that are gonna be on South Atherton as PennDOT works that project, how that's gonna go, kind of thing. So, it's the same as they were with North Atherton and everything, so.
Okay, so I will go back to the developer and talk to him about, let's get a hold of these businesses, and then by the meeting on the 17th,
17th or April 4, I think April 4 is our deadline as far as reaching a conclusion is on our part.
okay.
So we,
If-
within
if
the
it-
next 30 days,
Yeah.
we, or council, I should say, needs to
Yep, okay.
to make a determination, or we need to have a firm recommendation to come back to them.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
That's why we get paid the big bucks. Oh, yeah. Staff informatives, anything staff wants to draw to our attention? Very good. Council, other matters, anybody have anything for the good of the cause? Carla?
Yeah, I just have something, if you wouldn't mind lending me your ears for a moment. So I'd like to take a moment to appreciate and acknowledge the vast amount of correspondence that we've received regarding the pending casino in our township. I think we as a council have remained relatively quiet compared to some other correspondence that we receive on the subject for a number of reasons, the greatest of which being our complete lack of control on the matter. So while this lack of control as to its existence as a legislative body is completely true, I do want to recognize the sheer volume of concern about the potential negative regional effects of casinos by members of our township and our broader community. Nothing that happens in any of the Center Region's municipalities happens in a vacuum, so the fact that the majority of concerned correspondence comes from outside of our governing jurisdiction does not negate it, in my opinion. So, in truth, no one knows the long-term implications of Pennsylvania's Category 3 casino budget balancing endeavor. I have read each of the letters sent to the Gaming Control Board of which we have been made aware by those who have thought it prudent to copy us. And I confess that I too find some unease with the potential upshot of a casino being located in our region. I'm going to skip some of my comments, but again, we have no control over this. But the Gaming Control Board does, and in the hope that they would use their duty and power to ensure a positive outcome for the communities in which these casinos are placed, I do plan to write a letter to them imploring as much. I was hoping to have that letter written by today, but I do not. I have a draft written. I have some more research to do, and I would just like to make clear that my point in the letter is actually neither for nor against a casino in College Township. It is merely to remind the powers that be that these are these are powerful forces that are being put into our municipalities in Pennsylvania, and the only people that really have control over them is the board at the state level, that agency. So I just wanted to share this with the public that's watching, that we as a council acknowledge the correspondence that has come across our desk. And I don't just speak for me, I speak for every member of council, as I know each of them do take correspondence very seriously. So I don't want you to feel ignored. And when my letter is finished, I will offer it to other members of council to add their signatures or adjustments if they wish. Either way, I will plan to send something. And thank you, Chair, for the time to make this comment.
Absolutely, thank you. Any thoughts?
No,
on that?
if I can make just a real quick comment, we have read all the correspondence. We do take these things very seriously. There hasn't been anything actionable necessarily for us to speak to it in a context, so thank you for bringing that up. I think it's very clear to us too, even though we don't have necessarily control over the casino per se, we are and will be responsible for the health, safety, and welfare of the residents and visitors to our township. And we will continue to do what we think is right in order to address that within the framework and the powers, the jurisdiction that we have. And I know we all are very committed to that. So thank you for bringing it up. But I think we haven't had an opportunity to acknowledge that earlier. So thank you.
Absolutely. We will be watching. And we've already been looking ahead. You know, you take our field trip to Westmoreland, our continued communication with that community as their casino has, you know, developed and everything. And now I assume we'll have similar with Shippensburg, when they go online, any of these, so that hopefully we can learn from, hopefully they don't make any mistakes, but if they do, we will certainly learn from them. And, you know, try to do as best we can as stewards of the township and everything, so.
Right, and I do believe that whether or not College Township had opted out of, even if College Township had opted out of a casino in 2017 or whenever it was, there would still be one located in the county. And
Yes.
I do think that College Township in the center region has proven itself to be an excellent steward of these, you know, of big things, of
Football games?
Football games?
Maybe, anybody?
Yeah, and I am glad in a way that if it's gotta be in the county, that it's going to be in our purview.
Yeah,
Good point.
very good point, very good point. Unless there's any other comments on that?
I just,
Okay,
you
go
know, a
ahead.
comment on that, I just wonder if we should, you know, maybe just have a periodic, just review of the current status of the casino, you know, and where it stands, you know, as an informational thing.
Like in the
It
management
is,
update?
right, that's a good
Management
point.
Put it on there,
Yep,
absolutely.
Yep.
Because
There
it
is a
hot
certain
topic.
opacity to the whole process that
Yeah.
is.
There's a key initiatives and projects portion of our website, and it is on there, and we do update all the comments that go onto the
Yeah.
board in Harrisburg, so those comments are updated when
Yeah.
we get them.
Anything we know,
Thanks for
we
pointing that
want
out, John.
everybody to
Yeah,
know.
thank you.
Yeah, yep.
Thank you.
Anything else for the good of the order? I will accept the motion to adjourn, if not.
So moved.
I will second, we are adjourned, thank you.
Can you do that?
Yes. Yes, actually you can. See, technically you can make a motion, it's just